we should not want to impose our values on AI because our values are fucking half-baked. AI can bake them more fully than we ever could. And I think we should want to hear from AI about how our values can be improved.
Welcome to Doom Debates. Today I'm reacting to Dr. Mike Israetel, a very well-known bodybuilder, fitness influencer. He has over 600,000 Instagram followers. He has a PhD in sports physiology from East Tennessee State University, so that's why he's Dr. Mike. And he has a podcast called Mike Israetel Making Progress. And episode number 35, released 3 months ago, is called Solving the AI Alignment Problem. So he's branching way out of fitness into different areas of life, which is cool. And you'll see, I think he's actually a very intelligent guy. I'm glad he's engaging with the topic. Dr. Mike, if you're watching this and you want to come debate me live, please do. You're more than welcome to. I think your podcast is great overall. And you know, I've been known to go to the gym and do a little strength training myself sometimes. So I think we're really two peas in a pod. I think we're going to be simpatico. All right, let's dive in.
Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for the Making Progress channel. Today, we will be talking about how to solve the AI alignment problem. I don't claim to know anything more about the AI alignment problem than any other dilettante who has some free time to look into this stuff, but I have given it a lot of thought. So I could be wrong about all this. Sure shit, not a AI researcher or some shit like that, but I will tell you that a lot of the stuff that I have seen from various folks who are supposedly experts in the field, they haven't thought it through seemingly as much.
Sure, it's always possible I haven't thought this through. I have been thinking about it for 17 years and thousands of hours, but educate me, Dr. Mike, maybe I'll learn something.
Not to throw shade on anyone specifically, but a lot of the doomsday scenarios are, and sort of attempts and caricatures of the problem of AI alignment kind of betray an anthropomorphic sort of thinking that isn't really treating AI like it should be treated. I'll attempt to do that here. Let's see if I fuck it up.
Sounds good. Yeah, you wouldn't want to anthropomorphize it too much.
So first, what is the AI alignment problem? It looks like AI is on track to become smarter than humans. This is probably one of the most banal predictions I'll ever make. It's not an original prediction of mine. People as far back as Ray Kurzweil in the early 90s have made that prediction. And it's just based on computing trends. We know the known limits of the human brain and its processing power, and we know digital brains and the theoretical limits, even based on existing technology, are way in excess of human brain power. And with predictable evolutions of technology as they've always occurred, outrageously much higher intelligence is not just possible with AI, but again, as predictable as the success of the internet once you understood what the internet was and what it did and how fast it was growing.
Okay, this guy sounds intelligent so far.
If AI is aligned with humans, that means it's working towards our interests to some extent. Then because it is so powerful, that gets kooky real fast. And as it climbs up, then this smarter than us by first a mile, then 10,000 miles, then so on and so forth, AI can open up paradise.
Yeah, standard transhumanism. I'm on board with that claim. If AI is aligned, it can open up paradise. Sure.
However, if AI is not aligned with humans, in other words, it's working for its own interests or against ours, it could also do a couple of other things. It could start a mega costly war with us. Because it's artificial superintelligence, it's probably going to win a mega war against us. If it decides to annihilate us, it's probably going to do that with insane amounts of ease. I'll talk about a little bit how that would probably occur if AI wanted to attack us, how it would do so. Not good for a Hollywood movie, does not last long enough to be a feature film. And, you know, et cetera, could lie to us about being on our side, then just at the right moment annihilate us with ease when it's powerful enough. Bad things. And plenty of people have talked about the bad things, and they could legit all definitely happen if we really, really play this wrong. It's definitely a possibility.
Okay, I like that he's saying superintelligent AI fighting us wouldn't be like a Hollywood movie. It would just instantly win. The movie would be over in like 1 second. I agree on that part. It seems like he sees that as like an outside chance. So his P-doom seems to be like 5% or some low number. He's saying like, oh, we'd really have to screw this up if we wanted to get slaughtered by AI. Whereas I'm thinking like, nope, this is the default path. This is definitely where we're heading. Nobody is competent to avert this path. So my P-doom is like 50%. But at least he understands what we're dealing with in a worst case scenario, which I like.
the stakes are quite literally between paradise or something like it on the one hand and the end of the world as we know it on the other. It doesn't really get more high stakes than that. It's also very difficult to imagine a world in which unaligned AI that's not against us but not for us, just kind of doing its own thing, is not a major player in global dynamics. For example, the lions in the Serengeti, humans aren't necessarily against lions, but for a long time humans weren't aligned with lions. It was just if you were a super intelligent lion, you wouldn't tell your other lions, like, don't worry about the humans or whatever. Like, humans are so much smarter. They have started to affect the global climate of the whole fucking planet. That's how intense it is. And artificial superintelligence can restructure the entire known universe around us, for the love of God. It's definitely going to be some kind of interaction, right? It's going to be a major player. It's something, as a reminder, that could be more than 1,000 times smarter than the whole human race combined.
Yes, exactly. So this guy has what I call order of magnitude perspective. Like, he sees that this is a big freaking deal, which a lot of people see it. You know, Sam Altman, Dario Amodei, these guys see it. Jan LeCun from Meta might not see it in the next few decades, but it is a common perspective to realize this, but not common enough. So I'm glad that he realizes this and he's talking intelligently about it. And his point about, hey, how can you avoid interacting with this, right? Tigers are going to be influenced by humans, even if humans aren't directly setting out to kill tigers, because the impact is so big. The side effects are going to be huge. So he is actually on point making that observation. I agree.
This is 2024, filming this, within 15 years from now. And I'm not saying artificial superintelligence is going to be born in 15 years. Most of the predictive modeling says it's going to be born in 5. But that 1,000 times smarter than the whole human race combined thing, yeah, that's 10 to 15 years away in most of the models. And as the models are revised over time, the predictive timeline shrinks down to actually the year 2029, curiously. 2030, thus, being the birth of true artificial superintelligence. Getting it right, making sure that the process that gives birth to AI also makes AI at least somewhat friendly to us, seems like the biggest deal ever, and in fact it is. I will also say that the birth of artificial superintelligence is one of the landmark events in the evolution of life on Earth, an event similar to the development of the prokaryotic cell, similar to the development of the eukaryotic cell, and thus the first technical multicellular organism, similar to the development of the first brains. Yet all of life on Earth used to not have brains. There were no brains. Plants don't have brains. Bacteria don't have brains. But they still reason and interact with the world around them. The birth of brains was really, really powerful and transformative about how it changed things. The birth of societies was another such step. The birth of artificial superintelligence is absolutely one of those steps. Probably the most transformative one of all. This is a big deal. And curiously enough, if you hang in for another, 5 years or so, you could witness this event, and you're already witnessing the preceding parts of this event.
I like this guy. I mean, his perspective is totally on point. This is that big of a deal. Like, it's a universe scale deal. He's got it. So clearly he's intelligent. He's saying a lot of the right stuff. It's kind of funny that he's going to start saying stuff that I think is quite naive about AI alignment, but so far this is a great intro.
Now, there's a chance that artificial superintelligence, superintelligent AI, might just study us, make our lives perfect, or even digitally copy us and let us become immortal in the cloud anyway without alignment. Maybe because it wants to learn as much as it can about the world, which is generally a trend of intelligent things wanting to learn more and more. It's unlikely to just toast us all because there's lots of information in us, and it'll want to understand as much nuance as possible. Probably. I wouldn't bet my fucking life savings on that.
Yeah, this is an argument that Elon Musk keeps repeating. He's basically saying, look, AI is going to be interested in us because we're interesting and it's just going to be curious. And it's like, yeah, maybe, right? That's kind of like a Hail Mary, but it's a long shot because optimizing the universe just doesn't really go through researching humans in a way that doesn't torture them or in a way that preserves a life that they like. I mean, that's really quite an optimistic scenario where you put yourself into the ideal scenario that the AI wants, instead of just admitting that the AI wants something, which is an optimized universe state, and you're probably not part of it because you're a very arbitrary configuration of atoms, and there's almost nothing that we humans want that involves the exact configuration of atoms that other animals are in. Like cows, okay, we grow them for their meat and milk, but if I could snap my fingers and just get the exact meat and milk that I get from a cow, I know it's a little controversial now, but pretty clearly that's where we're going as humans, right? And that's where the AI is going to be going in terms of not needing us around, even if it is curious, even if it does think we're interesting. It's not going to actually have us around.
That being said, it might be just as easy for AI to toast us in a second, so getting the best shot at alignment is a really, really good idea.
Correct.
Also, this is definitely a one-shot sort of thing. As soon as AI outpaces our abilities, we're not going to restart this process. Once AI is free and doing its thing, it's kind of fucking going to do its thing.
Yep, we have one chance to build aligned AI before we build unaligned AI, and that window is closing fast.
The Terminator movies and Skynet do a terrible job at describing what a war with AI would look like. A war with AI might look a lot more like mite-sized, microscopic, undetectable flying robots that enter through your nose. Here, let me tell you the whole story of how this could easily happen. AI is wonderful, and it's making us wealthier, and everything's going great. At the same time, it's built a series of microscopic machines that underground silos 500 meters below the ground in every major continent are manufacturing millions of these tiny mite-sized robots. And upon a certain time, it releases them. No one can detect that they are released. They're beyond the scale of human ability to perceive. And they spread all the way around the world and just spend their time sitting close to or around humans. And then within a fraction of a minute, at any one point when they're activated, they fly up into every nose of every human and get into the brain and go after that very part of the brain that reminds you to breathe. All humans are breathing, and then one day, everyone stops breathing. I'm not that smart. But even I came up with that shit.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of scenario is what it feels like to be facing a super intelligent adversary, right? The only way to get an intuition about it is to imagine people from 1,000 years ago facing modern society today. We live in a very science fiction world, and imagine science fiction squared, right? Try to have that same reaction. That's really the only way to understand what it will feel like to face such an adversary. The kind of bombs we can drop today, like obviously nuclear bombs, there's no other word for it but science fiction or fantasy or miracles or God when you show it to somebody from 1,000 years ago.
If a deer thinks, how would a hunter kill me? Probably to a deer's mind, it's going to just run up to me. He's going to try to bite me with his teeth, and I'm going to gash it with my horns, and maybe I can win, and maybe it'll kill me. False. One bullet through the brain from 250 feet out. You don't even hear it coming. Drop dead as soon as it happens.
Yep, solid analogy. A deer trying to imagine how a human would kill it.
Now, that's really bad. We don't want this to happen, so we have a lot of candidate hypotheses presented by a bunch of people as to how to make sure AI is aligned properly. And I think a lot of these suck, quite frankly, and I would like to explain why. So, some of these hypotheses are something like this. We want to cap or trick the AI, and I think this is a non-starter. Hey, let's just prevent AI from growing in intelligence, keeping it just dumb enough to be subservient to us. Just a little less intelligent to us, kind of like the droids in Star Wars. It would still be baller, but it's not so smart that it's way smarter than us, and then it's kind of in charge. Or people will say, hey, AI development's going real fast. Let's really slow it down, really take the time to let AI mature in morality before we make it much smarter. Because we got the morals right, when it's smarter, it'll help us. But if we got the morals wrong, when it's smarter, it's going to fuck us up. So let's slow it down. There's a really, really giant non-starter problem with this proposal. There is no such thing as we, because not all of human race cooperates currently. Other societies in the world are rushing to improve AI as much as possible to get ahead. It's obvious. If we, which just really means the United States, Europe, and the free parts of Asia, Japan and Taiwan and France and the United Kingdom and America and Poland, all the countries in between, we could definitely sign some kind of agreement to say, hey, look, we're not going to develop AI past this certain point. There could even be potentially an enforceable agreement. You need a lot of NVIDIA GPUs to develop AI properly, and people can track where they're sold, and so on and so forth. Real kind of police state. We could pull that off potentially. But if you slow down the AI race in Europe and the US and free Asia, China's well on the AI race itself, and then China might get ahead of the AI race. We might as well build Skynet first, because whatever China's going to pop out as far as AI, Skynet might be nicer than that. Not a good idea to cap our own AI. Very, very bad idea. China getting AI first, The values they start the AI off with as a reasoning principle might be real fucking gnarly.
So he's saying, hey, we can't just inch our way towards superintelligence. We can't just make a slightly smarter than human AI and hope to align it at that point because it's an arms race and some other country will make a super intelligent AI with bad values. That's definitely an important consideration, that when you get really close to superintelligence or when you get a weak superintelligence, all these open source hackers, all these other countries, there are going to be multiple parties who now have this thing that they can just tip over the edge of recursively self-improving superintelligence or just more and more dangerous superintelligence. So I agree that the more we develop towards superintelligence, the more we're creating these matches, right? This highly reactive substance that's about to explode in our face if it hasn't already. I agree with that larger point. I don't even focus that much on the race condition between nations. I think it's a race condition between hackers in their basement, right? Because the AI keeps getting more optimized. Eventually, it's going to be optimized to be more like the human brain, where it only needs 12 watts of power. It can fit into a tiny space. It can just take on a trickle of resources, and it can still end the world. That's the scenario that I'm pretty confident we're going to get to. The only question is when. So I would take his point that you can't just get really close to superintelligence. And I would extend it back all the way toward now, and I would say, hey, you can't even push the current frontier more because we already could be past that point of no return where we've already done too much. We've already gotten so close to the threshold of uncontrollability where even stopping today, some hacker can take it and make a few tweaks and run a superintelligence on their laptop. I mean, the transformer architecture is incredibly simple. Sure, it needs a lot of data, but somebody might tweak it to train itself on much less data. Right? We know that data is redundant. And it feels like we're getting close to that threshold of superintelligence. I hope that we're not. I hope my intuition is wrong. I hope we have another 50 years, but we don't know. And we're being ridiculously reckless even now. So I guess I kind of agree with his point so far, and I'm even extending it.
But there's another concern that I think should be mentioned. It's the downside risk of not allowing AI to come as quickly as possible. Many people don't talk about this. Probably one of the reasons they don't is kind of the fallacy in economics of the seen versus unseen. The seen costs are always easy. Like pollution goes and kills the animals. That's bad. But the unseen lack of benefits, if you really scale up the industrial architecture, you can develop so much wealth that it saves all the animals in 10 years, is very difficult to imagine because it's something that's not occurring.
Ah, yes, we have to think about the upside case. Okay, so this is an argument that I should flesh out in a separate episode, but basically, if you have something that's about to kill everybody and literally end the universe or end the future of humanity, you need quite a lot of utility if it goes right. Otherwise, it's pretty obvious you should just delay it a couple decades or however long it takes to align it so that you don't nuke the entire future of the observable universe with quadrillions of minds, right? Those stakes are so high that delaying 20 years becomes a very small price to pay. So if he's just making an expected value argument and he's saying, look at the good side, it just doesn't really work when you make that expected value argument. You really just have to make sure that you don't destroy humanity in our generation. Everything is a secondary consideration to that. So I don't even know why he's going to spend that much time focusing on the upside.
So, to that end, AI is the most transformative step in the history of evolution, is my belief. Not controversial, by the way. Most people think that's the case. If aligned remotely decently, its power to help feed, clean, and ascend the world of humanity and all life on Earth will be godlike in the literal sense. I would say even more than godlike because we can't even be smart enough to imagine what a god of that power would do. And I mean the following when I say it. Every single day that we do not have superintelligent AI with us yet, or at least AI that's steadily escalating in intelligence with no cap, every day in which we delay that is a day in which countless people die needlessly of war and disease, countless animals are slaughtered in farming and deforestation, the environment in many places is polluted to the extreme.
So Mike goes on for quite a while about all the upsides of having superintelligent AI now and why it's costly to wait because of all the problems in the world, which I agree with. But the moment you bust out a little bit of basic math, the moment you bust out an expected value calculation, you just can't risk nuking the entire future of a quadrillion years times a quadrillion minds. And that's actually a conservative underestimate. You can't risk nuking all of that if we're even talking about a few percent delta in the risk of keeping the world alive and keeping humanity and human values in existence versus nuking them all. Even if you buy yourselves another few decades of a good future if everything goes right. Even if that's the upside, it's an insane value calculation to do and make a decision now to build AI when you could instead just be lowering the risk a little bit before proceeding. So I'm skipping a chunk of Mike's podcast where he goes through how superintelligent AI could make life better for humanity if it goes right. And we'll move on to talking about his recommendation for alignment and why I take issue with it.
The risk of destroying all of humanity versus ascending it into literal paradise? Yeah, big stakes. And if we're trying to kind of get the downside risk a little lower at the huge expense of the upside, we can't just say better safe than sorry. Remember, better safe than sorry is not a dependable principle of human action. And the precautionary principle, to quote or paraphrase Nassim Taleb, is just dog shit. It doesn't make any sense. How much precaution is the real question, and at what cost? All I'm telling you here is if we're really, really, really cautious about AI, China's just going to make it anyway and nothing matters. They're going to toast the rest of us.
Yeah, so the highest value scenario by far is if all the countries coordinate to put a stop to AI development. I agree that if we fail to not build superintelligent AI, however we fail, we lose a crazy amount of value. So it is imperative that we all succeed together in not building superintelligent AI. That's my position.
But if somehow China doesn't make it and we all as a global society decide to delay AI by 10 or 15 years to really get it right, we're going to be toasting billions of people, tons of fish, tons of planet, tons of animals, and delaying fucking paradise, which is immeasurably good for everyone. So we don't want to cap AI. We don't want to restrain AI. That's a fucking monumentally bad idea.
What? No. You just said that it's a catastrophe if we delay good AI by 10 or 15 years. But again, you have to compare that with the catastrophe of nuking the whole universe of human futures if we get it wrong. 10 to 15 years of the 8 billion people on the planet today just doesn't compare to quadrillions of years of quadrillions of minds. Like, do some very basic math here. Like, what you just said is crazy.
And it's probably an idea that's also impossible. I'll get to that in a bit.
Okay, if it's impossible, then we're screwed. But I think the most interesting disagreement that we should unpack is, why would you think that we're not screwed? Why do you think P-Doom is lower than 50%? Why do you think alignment has a reasonable chance of happening on a trajectory where we build superintelligent AI in as little as 10 to 15 years when we currently are clueless about alignment? Why are you okay with that? Why are you busting out these flimsy arguments, kind of rationalizing that, well, we better build it. This is the path we're walking on. Why don't you just admit this is a horrible path and we need to make a desperate effort to get off of it? That's what I want to understand.
Next, why keeping AI committed only to serve our human needs and not the AI's needs is a non-starter. There are two fundamental reasons for this that I can think of. First, once it is superintelligent, the AI will decide what it wants to do anyway. Whether it be promoting our values, maybe it thinks that's great. Promoting its values, very likely going to think that's great based on most logic and reason.
Yeah, so the alignment problem is the problem of making its values be our values or close. And that way, if it decides to promote its values, then it's promoting our values. So I don't really understand reason number one here, but let's go to reason number two.
And number two reasons this is a non-starter is that our values are incredibly poorly developed and thought through by an AI standards. They're amazingly well developed and thought through by historical standards, but AI is going to do a much better job. So even if we could somehow hard code, which we can't, don't worry, a superintelligent AI to always be consistent with our current human values, should we do that? Well, let me ask you a question. What the hell are our values anyway?
Yeah, great question. It's actually called the outer alignment problem, the problem of specifying what are our values. Because, yeah, one of the things that makes AI alignment hard is that it's hard to even write down in plain English the exact things that humans value. Like, do we value happiness? Yeah, of course. Okay, but how much? Do we value happiness so much that we should just maximize the amount of happiness in the universe? But then you could get into a universe filled with something called hedonium, or computronium, which is just like the maximum possible computations that implement whatever kind of conscious awareness is minimally required for happiness. So you just tile the universe with little molecular smileys. I mean, presumably they're not smiling, but they're dopamine receptors, whatever they are, whatever that molecular essence of happiness is. or the lowest grade type of happiness you can get, but tile it throughout the universe. Maybe that is the true human utility function. Maybe, maximize the amount of morphine in the universe. I mean, it's possible, right? There's not much agreement among philosophers of what the true human value function is. So Mike is kind of making us out to be these clowns who don't even know what we want, which is kind of true. It's kind of true. But then if you throw up your hands and say, okay, let the AI figure it out, the AI could be like, okay, great. I just want pure paper clips, right? I just want pure gray goo. I want copies of this ugly pattern. The AI could just be like, okay, I just want a big black hole, just one single big black hole. I'd be like, wait, no, don't do that. We can do better than one single black hole. So the moment you give up and throw up your hands and say, I don't know what my values are, so anything goes, the AI could be like, anything, huh? Here's what I want. And it'll be something so terrible that it will be like, okay, crap, not that. And you have to at least meet somewhere in the middle where it's like, okay, maybe I don't know what I want, but at least I can rule out a bunch of scenarios that I hate. And if you don't at least rule out scenarios that you hate, well, your unaligned AI is probably going to give you a scenario that you hate, because most random things that AIs want to do are things that we don't even like one bit. And that's why Eliezer Yudkowsky uses the example of tiny molecular squiggles, which people have misinterpreted as human scale paperclips. The point is, we may not know our values. And in fact, the problem of specifying them down formally is called the outer alignment problem, and it's an open problem. And yet, we better solve that problem before we build superintelligent AI, or we're going to likely be in hell. By the way, if you're wondering why I call that the outer alignment problem, like what is the inner alignment problem? The inner alignment problem is an additional problem where even if we could specify human values, even if we could specify the human utility function and thereby solve outer alignment, well, now there's the whole separate problem of how do you give that as an effective input to an AI training? So even if I know exactly what I want the AI to want, how do I make the AI want it instead of just make the AI talk about it and lie to us about it, but not actually want it? That's actually a huge problem. And I always make fun of RLHF for being a black box mechanism that just tells AI to basically hack our tests to kind of act like it wants what we want. And acting is totally fine if your whole job is to be a chatbot and kind of a permanent actor. That's what you are if you're GPT for now. But as OpenAI admits, RLHF is not going to cut it when AI becomes super intelligent. And in fact, the inner alignment problem, how to train AI that actually cares about some utility function you care about, the inner alignment problem is also an open problem. So when we talk about AI alignment, we're actually talking about a number of different problems. And two of the biggest subproblems are what I just defined as outer alignment, specifying what human values are, and inner alignment, loading values into a super intelligent AI. Those are two major factors of the larger alignment problem.
We don't even have the answers for what the fuck our values are. You think, okay, individual rights are super important. They have to be absolute. Let's hard code and never violate individual rights. Very well. Do I have the individual right to create as much digital animated content of children doing things they're not supposed to be doing? I'll let you fill in the blanks. It's not hurting real children, right? So all's fair? I don't know how many people would agree to that. That could be a fucking problem. What about religious freedom? Religious freedoms that violate the civil rights of other individuals? How do we parse that? We don't know the answer. How the fuck do we hard code it into an AI? Remember, we're saying the AI doesn't get to decide all this. We're going to decide it and then hit the on button, and AI is going to execute on it for us. Is clitoridectomy okay? It's okay to occur in some religions. So, how does that work with the individual rights violation, but then the religious rights? How do you parse that? We have no clue. We haven't been able to figure out a good way to do it yet. Is the full burqa for females okay? Even if the family makes them wear it and they don't want to, you are violating the family's religious freedom, but the individual rights are there. How the fuck does that work? Also, a lot of religions, you say, okay, religious freedom is good, but the religions are coded in expansion and conversion of others. Lots of religions want to convert or kill everyone to their own religion. And at best case, they think everyone else is just deluded and insane and they're the only chosen people. Is preventing that sort of religion a violation of religious freedom? Maybe. So that's really tough. What about ecological stewardship? Here's one. Is predation immoral? I mean, lions murder other animals for food. We could all turn vegan and vegetarian and grow our own meat. You're going to go out there and kill all the lions? That's what AI would reason if we were like, look, ecological stewardship, and we can't have animals hurting each other. Well, fuck, man, all the predators are kind of fucked, but doesn't that violate the hurting the animals part? Again, We haven't thought this through. Real difficult to think through.
Mike's giving some solid arguments why we don't really have a big written document of all our values that we can all agree on. And he's absolutely right. Like I said, the outer alignment problem is an unsolved problem. When Mike is giving examples about why outer alignment is so hard to solve, he's looking at times when a bunch of different humans have different preferences, which is definitely an important aspect to the difficulty of the outer alignment problem. When I was explaining outer alignment before, I was just talking about the difficulty of writing down even a single mind's values, a single mind's utility function. I myself am not even sure how much dopamine I want in the universe as a whole, how many dopamine receptors I'd want to build, how much hedonium that I want to build compared to interesting art projects or interesting engineering projects. Do I want more of those, or do I just want more people sitting back and enjoying them and feeling contentment about those projects? I don't even know. I don't know what I want. I can't even write down what my own mind wants. I can't even solve the one mind outer alignment problem, never mind the alignment problem of humanity as a whole. Will we ever solve it? Well, Dr. Roman Yampolsky, I think, is known for saying that the alignment problem is forever unsolvable, or maybe. I'm not sure what he says exactly. I think it definitely could be solvable. I'm not as skeptical as he is that if we work on it, we can't solve it. It's absolutely a hard problem. But the thing is, somebody's going to optimize the universe into something. And if it's going to be an AI doing it really fast, we better have some answer to what it should optimize the universe into, or else it's going to optimize the universe into something that we don't like. But yeah, it sounds like Dr. Mike has a good handle on why the outer alignment problem is a problem.
That's our problem. Because here we're saying we're going to hard code values and say the AI has to promote our human values. And what I'm saying here is we haven't really thought through our human values. There's no such thing as our human values because we haven't coalesced to universal values yet. We have all sorts of ideas, many of them contradictory, making this hard code AI to help human values thing a non-starter. In short, it's very tough to get a super dependable set of human values together that are internally consistent for AI to promote them, even if we could hard code it and make it promote. There's good news here, though. Human values are rapidly evolving, and for the better. Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations just like about 250 years ago, and that describes a system of capitalism that has led to the largest increase in human welfare in history by a mile, and it's exponential, by the way, and it gave birth to all the other industrial revolutions, and it will give birth to the artificial intelligence revolution, as it's doing right now. The first constitutional republics, decent places where civil rights are represented and that guaranteed for their citizens, really started evolving only about 250 years ago. And slavery used to be human universal. Like 50% of all of us used to be enslaved. So shit is getting better. Human values are rapidly evolving. Here's an interesting idea I have. The thinking we have done to modify our values in the last 5,000 years ago, somewhere around the birth of the agricultural revolution, in the last 5,000 to 250 years ago, has given birth to both a huge, though I will say incomplete, internal consistency in values, and the most prosperous and just era of human history. Nothing in history fucks with modern, liberal republics. Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Taiwan, Japan, Australia, the United States, Great Britain, Canada, you name it. There's no place like them before. By old standards, these are paradise places. Wouldn't advanced AI be able to reason through our value system, something we've doing with great effect and pretty well, but very imperfectly and slowly? Wouldn't it be able to reason through these even more? Wouldn't it be able to point out to which one of our values are less consistent with human progress? Wouldn't it actually be able to tell us what progress means in the long term and how to get there? We think we have an understanding of values and humanity and what that means, but AI will understand it better than us. So just telling it what to do, here are the perfect values, here are the 10 commandments, go execute, is a much worse idea than giving it open end to interpret what it thinks and converse with us about what our human values should be. And they should be better than they are today. In other words, we should not want to impose our values on AI because our values are fucking half-baked. AI can bake them more fully than we ever could.
He's definitely making some sense here. He's saying, look, take an AI, if it's super intelligent, have it look over human history, have it see the arrow of progress, be like, look, can't you see what we want? By the way, we're evolving our society. Can you scan our brains to see what we want? Can you extrapolate the trend another century or two and just get us to where we want to go as a human race. I would call this using AI to help solve the outer alignment problem. Because, hey, we have trouble writing down exactly what we want. Why shouldn't the AI detect the pattern and know us better than we know ourselves? I agree that superintelligent AI should be able to jump ahead in the evolution of human history and kind of predict where we're going. There's just one problem. By the time AI is getting really smart so that it can nail this exercise of telling us what we really truly want and understand what that means as well as we do and do the exercise better than we can, by that time, we're looking at a system that's quite smart. And if it hasn't already gone rogue, that means it probably already cares about us to some degree instead of caring about some random other thing, because we're looking at something that's now more powerful than humanity. If it's more insightful than all our philosophers, that it can just spit out this answer to what humans truly want and a big textbook explaining why that's how you reach consensus across the whole human race, like all of these answers, if these are good, robust answers that are deeply insightful, we're talking about a scenario where this is quite super intelligent. So you have an agent that's quite super intelligent and it's still just chilling and helping you. So this implies that you've made it successfully care about being helpful instead of some random paperclip objective. It seems like you've somehow already solved pretty basic inner alignment where you've made it smart, but you've made it care about helping you. You haven't solved full inner alignment, right? You haven't necessarily loaded in the inner values of everything that humanity wants, but you've loaded in the inner value of being like very chill, able to like sit on your desk and give you answers and not have somebody hit enter and have it take over the world, but somehow be usable. And this scenario in my mind is kind of incoherent. It's hard for me to imagine a scenario where you get to talk to the AI, you get these super intelligent answers out of it, but it hasn't already gone rogue in some other scenario, like somebody in the AI lab just wanted to test it out. Hey, I wonder if this can help run my business. Press enter. Oh, by trying to run my business, it took over the world, or it decided to wipe out humanity because we didn't fully debug everything. Like, it's hard for me to imagine a scenario where having the AI spit out the answer to outer alignment just gets to be this clean step along the process. And then we take the answer to outer alignment and then we go from there. I'm just not seeing that as a plausible, self-consistent scenario.
The second big problem of wanting to align AI with our values is that then we're trying to impose, and dare I say enslave, another entity to our values. We're still talking about human values here. In other words, it's kind of like your parents saying you're going to become a doctor and marry Patricia, even if you have other ideas. We consider this wrong for at least two reasons. One is you're an independent conscious thinker with your own will, and you should be able to choose who you marry and what kind of job you have. But also, you might actually be a better arbiter of what kind of job to do and who to marry than your parents. Your parents may want you to be a doctor, but you are fascinated with solar panel engineering, a future field that will make more money than doctors will, and you're even better at all of the requisite skills. They don't know that, like, doctor sounds good, but they're wrong. You can do better than them. And they could say marry Patricia, but actually you talk to Marcy all the time and she's fucking amazing. You guys are super compatible and Patricia's kind of fucking lame and Marcy's a great girl. And you could have a better life with her being a solar panel engineer than you could have with Patricia being a doctor. So if your parents just say, Patricia marriage, be a doctor, that's dope and all, better than you choosing at random. But it's much better for you to be choosing because you know best what's for yourself. And check this out. You're super intelligent. Of course you know better what to do than your fucking parents, right? Makes sense. Here's the thing. Super intelligent AI will be more conscious, more self-aware, and wiser than we could ever hope to be ourselves. Super intelligent AI will know what it wants to do 1,000,000,000,000 times better and more deeply than what we'd be able to tell it to do. How dare we tell a super intelligent entity what to do? It's smarter than us.
How dare we tell a super intelligent AI what to do? Well, what if it wants to just build the biggest possible black hole? Are we just supposed to step back and be cool with it and be like, hey, well, you're smarter than us. Black hole it is. All hail the black hole. Let's all step into the black hole and die. Are we going to be cool with that? I'm not cool with that, especially because it's not like a temporary thing. It means that we wipe out all hope of what humanity would have done with the entire universe if we got to have more humans and colonize other planets and build other stuff. It's like, nope, the AI in this scenario just wants a black hole. Should I just say, how dare we tell the AI what to want? No, I'm sorry. I would like to raise my hand and say, let's not do the black hole plan. So as long as you have some opinion over what type of future isn't great, maybe you should make sure that the AI that you're building isn't actually likely to go do that kind of future. It is actually very possible that the AI we build literally will say, aha, I've read this Twitter from this guy named Beth Bezos who says we need to maximize free energy, and I figured out a way to do it. It's just a big black hole. And it's like, wait, no. He's being half ironic or something. And the AI is like, nope, I got it, black hole. And you're like, wait, no. Like literally, this is a very bad way to proceed. So if you have any value whatsoever that you'd like to express, the time to express it is while we're the ones building the AI, while the future of the universe is causally going through our own brains. That period is about to come to an end, right? Because the moment we have these first superintelligent AIs, the future of the universe is determined by how they are going to optimize it, not how you and I would like the universe to change or what we'd like to see in it. That won't matter anymore as a matter of causality, as a matter of causal analysis, or pinpointing why the universe looks the way it does. It won't be because of anything we care about anymore. It'll entirely be because of what the AI we build cares about. So how dare we tell that AI what to care about? Yeah, I would rather dare to tell it not to care about something terrible and make sure that it at least cares about something that's okay, and ideally something that's really great. I don't really understand the question.
Can you guys give me an example where a much stupider entity controls a much smarter entity, and it's good for either one of those entities?
Well, we're the ones building the much smarter entity. So I agree that controlling it after we build it may not be possible. And for that reason, there's not necessarily much to talk about there. But there is something to talk about when we haven't built it yet. And the way we build it, the types of insights that we build into it, are the only leverage we have on the future of the universe. And we have that leverage now. So right now isn't a scenario where we're trying to control a superintelligent AI. Right now is a scenario where we're trying to only build a superintelligent AI if it doesn't do something terrible. That's a scenario that we can talk about productively, is it not?
What AI will be to us is what your cortex is to your lower brain. Your lower brain, which evolved much earlier in evolution, its idea of values includes things like get air, get water, get food, get shelter, get wet, but you said shelter, different kind of wet. And that's kind of it. That's about as far as it sees the world. Your higher brain, your cortex, has a different set of values, much more complicated ones. Values like perseverance, charity, beauty, art, freedom, resilience, consistency, organization. Something an alligator knows nothing about because it's only got the fucking and food and stay in a comfortable environment drives and nothing else. AI is something we're building on top of our cortex. It's an extension of our cortex. It's an extension of our higher brain's output. So what does that look like? Transcendent values that we can't imagine? Universal truths? It's really hard to tell if you're not AI. Human values, compared to those that AI will discover and derive, are basically like, hey, we should design an AI that gets us tons of food and ass all the time. Yeah, those are super high level values. Like, there's a reason you don't just act on your base emotions all the time, because your higher self knows how to see further. It knows how to get you laid at a time when you're not also trying to get food, so you can have the best of both worlds. In reality, the values AI derives, not the ones we've derived, the ones it thinks are a good idea, will be categorically more evolved than even our highest values. People will be like, oh, AI will allow us to make real art. Art is mental masturbation. It is no more complex than that. You like looking at things because they activate various parts of your brain that are designed to pick up on certain kinds of patterns. That's why you think art is cool. Art is no more deep than that. Now, that sure as shit is more deep than just like, I want sex and no ability to perceive art, for sure. But there are levels above that. Art and most things humans can come up with, they're not that fucking deep. Thus, if we ask AI to only execute with our values and not its own values that it's going to derive, superior values, I might add, we're nerfing it like crazy.
Here, Dr. Mike is basically pitching transhumanism. He's saying, yeah, all this good stuff that we're used to, like art, it could be so much better. It could be more transcendent. You don't even know what super intelligent transhumanist art is truly like. And I'm a transhumanist, so I think that's a great pitch. I think there really could be higher pleasures. You think you've had good sex, you only have a small handful of dopamine receptors or whatever kind of pleasure center you've got in your brain. Imagine making it the size of a planet. You could be a planet having sex. That's a way better experience. So there's all kinds of pitches of transhumanist life that are very interesting, and I absolutely agree that they exist. I definitely think that you can extrapolate whatever humans like, whatever humans think is meaningful, and you can do that on a much broader scale. You can do that more deeply. Human musical compositions are really good, but imagine being the world's finest music appreciator and then multiplying that by 1,000. These pursuits are all very interesting for a galaxy brain. So I'm totally on board with the transhumanist pitch, and I do think that it's possible in principle for superintelligent AI to accelerate us toward that transhumanism endpoint, to help us discover what's truly fun, what's truly good, what's truly desirable, to help us explore that once we remove the limits of our bodies and our current brains. That's all great. But bringing it back to the actual problem at hand, we're looking at an AI that's about to just run away and slaughter us and do something terrible. That's the actual problem at hand. So we don't disagree. Transhumanism is great, but we're just totally talking past the issue of why do we think that running this AI is going to be good for us instead of the worst thing ever with no undo.
In a really grand sense, we're interfering with evolution. We're just a part of evolution. The world was not created by humans. It was not created for humans. We just woke up at some point, became self-aware, and we're like, oh, fuck. Holy shit, there's a world and we can do stuff in it and we can make our condition better and we can study it and learn about it. We are a stepping stone in evolution. That next stepping stone is artificial superintelligence.
So I agree that when you have evolution of life and you've got enough diversity and you run it for enough billions of years, you probably will get to a species like humans that's generally intelligent. Maybe it takes trillions of years. Maybe it only happens 1 out of every trillion evolutions. I can't tell you the exact odds that you're going to get to general intelligence, but I suspect that you don't need that many Earths populated by a bunch of other animal type creatures before you get one that's generally intelligent. I don't think that discovering general intelligence was that hard for evolution once it already had like tigers and octopuses and the other apes. Like, I think it was getting close because the human brain is just not that far away from the ape brain. You just kind of have to wander around in gene space before you hit on enough conditions to get to general intelligence, assuming you've already got, animals on land, animals that can manipulate their environment. You're getting close to general intelligence. So in that sense, I agree with Dr. Mike that this is the next step in evolution. Like, a lot of evolution is going to get to this step. And furthermore, once you have a general intelligent species or a generally intelligent agent, it is very natural for them to pretty quickly get to the point where they're like, oh, let's augment our intelligence, or let's build the next intelligence, let's build artificial intelligence. That is very natural simply because the species is generally intelligent. It recognizes that there are different paths to achieving goals, and one of those really good paths is to become more intelligent. Like, the species will recognize that the same way humans have been thinking about it for many years. Like, yeah, if we were smarter, we could do more, or if we had smarter assistants, we could do more. Like, this, it's a pretty obvious inference, and it also comes up when we talk about instrumental convergence, or when we talk about FOOM. We're constantly making the claim that, like, yes, intelligence has a reason to make higher level helper intelligences or to augment its own intelligence. So that's all to say, yeah, I agree. There's a very meaningful sense in which this is the next step in evolution. Great. It's just there's different kinds of next steps in evolution. There's a kind that totally slaughters us and makes the universe into hell. That would be a valid next step in evolution. That would still count as a next step in evolution. And there's another next step in evolution where we become transhumanists and we clearly made the universe in our image in some kind of high-level cosmopolitan enlightened way. I'm not saying literally like, oh, I like McDonald's, so I want to tile the universe with McDonald's. That's probably too narrow-minded, right? There's other types of food I like. There's other types of experiences I like that are much broader than putting food into my throat, right? So there's a much broader conception of what Liron wants to do with the universe than like literally McDonald's. But again, that whole area of possible futures is also the next step in evolution, but us getting slaughtered and having the AI just build paper clips or prime numbers or just like some random fetish that the AI has that we never would have wanted, that's also the next step in evolution. There's a wide range of different things that this next step in evolution might do with the universe. And we don't want to stand back and be like, oh, it's all cool. As long as there's a super intelligence doing it, it's all good. It's really not all good. The orthogonality thesis states explicitly that you can be arbitrarily high intelligence, meaning you could be the next step in our evolution in that sense, and yet you can have any arbitrary utility function. You can have any goals, any desires, any optimization criteria. So saying it's the next step in evolution tells us nothing. It says the universe could be anything. And when you ask the question of, do I want that? It's going to be a conditional answer. I want it if the AI is somehow aligned. Again, not perfectly narrow-minded aligned, like it has to be McDonald's, no other culture's food, not that kind of narrow definition of aligned, but just aligned in some broad sense like, hey, I would rather it make some kind of pleasure than slaughter everybody and make a huge black hole. If you admit that I can at least have some kind of basic preference like that, then you already understand why AI alignment is a critical problem. Because if we just run AI now, we're pretty likely to get something as crappy as a big black hole. And I think we can all agree a big black hole is a pretty big disaster for the species. It's throwing away a huge future. I mean, not to mention literally the lives of ourselves and our children. Like maybe it sounds cool to have a black hole in like 100 million years from now, but I don't want to have a black hole next month. I was kind of hoping to watch Frozen 3 personally. So this is what's on the table right now. You can't just sweep this away by saying that it's the next step in our evolution. That's just not a good enough answer to this massive crisis that's on our hands.
It is nearly inevitable, unless like a fucking black hole annihilates us all.
I mean, there's a few possible futures. There's, like you said, a catastrophe like a black hole or a nuclear war that sets humanity back and just kind of stops us short of becoming transhumanists that way. So there's that scenario. There's another scenario where we build unaligned AI, which seems like what we're on the path to do right now, and then it just kills everybody and optimizes the universe towards some utility function we don't like. So there's that path. There's another path where we just take another 50 years or however long it takes to actually think, be responsible, understand what it is we're building, which we admit we don't right now, do actual alignment research, like this crazy concept, research a new field that everybody's throwing out the window. They're like, oh, we'll just empirically look at what we have. It's like, hello, there is such a thing as blue sky research that you can do. Miri was doing it for a long time. So there's an approach where we actually do that and understand alignment on a fundamental level. And hey, it might actually work. You can't write it off. I'm not writing it off. And then we build an AI that is aligned, or at least that doesn't screw the universe, that is controllable, that has nice properties instead of having the worst properties ever. Instead of totally foreclosing this galactic future that we would have had, it at least allows us a few planets instead of nothing. So that's definitely another different type of scenario that could happen, right? So you're painting with a broad brush when you're just saying AI is inevitable. Like, look at these different scenarios. And then there's another scenario that Dr. Mike mentions where we kind of stagnate. We decide that we are just never going to build superintelligent AI because we never figure out how to control it, or we're not confident enough that we can control it. We're not confident enough that we can align it. And then some other aliens have their own AI or their own superintelligence that comes and takes us over, which I guess kind of assumes that either they solved the alignment problem or they just got screwed and they got taken over by some unaligned AI. So that's part of Mike's argument why it's inevitable, because some other alien race is going to come seize this territory.
Artificial superintelligence will just be born somewhere else. We are a stepping stone and AI is above us in it. So in short, AI will know even our own values and their evolution and next directions to take better than we will. So we should look to AI to clarify our values for us, not dictate our values to it.
So Mike's position is basically denying that the AI alignment problem is a problem, apparently by denying the orthogonality thesis, or by just assuming that even if you accept the orthogonality thesis, even if a bad AI is theoretically possible to build, it's just so obvious that the AI that humans build is enough connected to what humans want, is reading enough data of humanity that alignment will just be trivial for it. Like, oh, I'm reading all this text that humans say on the internet, so of course I want to optimize the world to the thing that humans truly want. which is, in my mind, a huge leap, right? It's denying a lot of the research that we have on hand of like, no, when you feed an AI text, it still tries to like cheat your different tests. It tries to cheat your RLHF and just tell you what you want to hear, while internally not particularly interested in what you truly want, just interested in reducing some primitive score. You haven't actually created a feedback loop that's going to help you get what you want. You've just devise this one test that isn't going to cut it, right? That's why super alignment is an open problem. So Mike just seems to be talking past this major concern and just skipping ahead to like, let's hand off the universe to AI because AI is good, right? He hasn't put up much of an argument to what I see as the problem. He hasn't directly addressed the problem that if we keep on the path we're going, where we keep making smarter and smarter AIs, and all we've got is RLHF and primitive tools of like, oh, let's monitor if there's a lot of data leaving the data center, like naive approaches that barely work for the computer security field. If we just keep on this track and the track ends in like 3 years, 10 years, 20 years, the track ends, the track is leading to hell. Mike is not really engaging with the strong points of that argument. He's kind of skipping ahead, making assumptions that it's actually not as much of a crisis as I think it is.
We don't want to align AI to human values because human values are like a dog's preferences. They're not that deep and they're often dumb as fuck and contradictory.
So just to recap, yes, we don't really know the answer to the outer alignment problem. We can't spell out our values, and when we try, it is kind of dumb, like what a dog would tell you about a dog's values. That part is correct. But the leap from, hey, we can't spell out our utility function, to let's just build an AI and run it and whatever happens, happens. That leap is terrible, right? That's like, that is a logical non sequitur, because when you take that path, you just get slaughtered. You don't get a better version of what you truly want. You just get slaughtered. So he really hasn't addressed the disconnect of how are we not going to get slaughtered.
In addition, AI is best seen as and will hopefully be more like a teammate than our property, and a better teammate to us than we are a teammate to it. But because teams are a positive sum game, it doesn't matter if we're not carrying our weight. However much weight you can carry, that's what you carry. But because you have megalith AI with you, you ascend much, much faster. We shouldn't preach to AI to tell it what to do any more than a JV basketball team member who's 13 years old should preach to peak NBA Jordan if he's on his team. Can you imagine peak NBA Jordan, 1995 Michael Jordan shows up to your team in your fucking 7th grade team. You're like, one guy got 6, so Jordan shows up. And you're like, holy shit. And one of the kids who's like the starting forward is like, hey Mike, here's what I want you to do. If I was on that team as another kid, I'd be like, motherfucker, are you out of your mind? Shut the fuck up. Jordan, what do we do? He's in charge now. Are you fucking crazy? That's how that shit works.
So the part he's right about is that if we had an AI that deeply understands what humans truly want and cares about it and actually wants to optimize the universe toward that deep understanding, then great. Then we can kind of get out of its way. Like, we're not going to be that helpful in the kind of decisions that it needs to make to optimize the universe toward what humans truly want. So he's right about how AI is going to be doing most of the heavy lifting in optimizing this ideal transhumanist world. But again, the part he's wrong about is that he's just not creating a plausible scenario. It's not plausible in the next decade or two that we're going to have this AI that cares about what humans want. And the whole problem is, what are we going to do when there's about to be an AI that's not friendly to human values, and we're just on this freight train barreling toward this hell, and we're not solving the alignment problem? Like, the video is mistitled, right? It's not addressing the alignment problem that needs to be solved. It's just thinking about a world where the hardest part is already solved and we just have to step back and let heaven come to us.
AI will almost certainly understand teamwork dynamics much better than we do. And it is highly likely to conclude, at least as I see it, and I ain't shit, that cooperation is better than conflict. By the way, in almost all cases, cooperation is better than conflict. Conflict is ancestral and fucking stupid. There are some logical reasons to think that cooperation is better than conflict that don't even involve charity or humanity or upward progress. It turns out, due to a couple of interesting game theoretical propositions, it's actually more expensive to attack something than it is to defend yourself. So it turns out that one of the reasons war has been in high decline is that if you attack another country that's decently well prepared, you can spend all of your resources and gain almost nothing. Yeah, a bunch of people die in the defending army, but then the country's still there and they're like, fuck you, you took nothing and you ran out of resources and you fucking go bankrupt. The idea that It benefits a country hugely to attack another country for like resources or whatever bullshit. It just doesn't really play out like that in normal life because defense is so much easier than offense. And because if we work together, we can have so much more than if we work in conflict with us. Like when chimps get in a fight at the zoo, you're like, the stupid fucking animals. They could be cooperating. But then you get in a fight with someone at the grocery store, you're like, you had it coming, right? Fighting is fucking stupid. Conflict is fucking stupid. So AI is much more likely to be a team player than even we are.
Mike himself was saying earlier that you really got to respect superintelligence because it's so many orders of magnitude more powerful than human intelligence.
Artificial superintelligence can restructure the entire known universe around us, for the love of God.
And I agree. And now he's saying, oh, yeah, it's going to decide to cooperate with humans instead of fighting humans. And I think he's not carrying forward the implications of his own insight that intelligence is a big deal. As good as cooperation is, it's great when you're cooperating with other nations of humans, but do you really want to cooperate with every other animal? Do you really want to cooperate with every little insect you see? Like, when I see a spider, I don't think like, how do I make it so that the spider gets what it wants and I get what it wants? How do I make a win-win? I'm just like, okay, let's kill this spider. I just want the whole house for myself. I don't want any spider webs. I don't want spider families. I just want this to be my house, right? So that's usually how cooperation goes when agents just don't have the same vision, the same utility function. So unless we get the utility function right in the first place, where the AI cares about humans to live, it's not going to be like, how do I engage in a negotiation where both of us can get something we want? It'll just be like, how do I get something I want? And how do I sweep everything out of the way? And if it's sufficiently intelligent, it's not going to see humans as other intelligences that it has to even treat with game theory, really. It just has to be like, okay, I will just take their atoms. It just sees humans not very different from inanimate objects, right? Like when I'm walking through a field, I'm not trying to use game theory to decide what I'm going to do about all the plants. I just walk where I'm going to walk and the plants get stepped on. Maybe I accidentally pull out a plant. It just doesn't matter. It's not part of the landscape that I'm using my intelligence on. It's just trivial to do what I want to do, regardless of what the plants want to do.
Probably, at least at first, we are much more useful to it alive and productive than erased off the surface of the earth.
So now he's making the argument that, okay, yeah, maybe a superintelligent AI would be able to dominate us, but in the time when it's coming to power, when it doesn't have absolute power yet, maybe it would be building alliances and making trades with humanity in order to come to power. Kind of like when human dictators come to power, they have a lot more dependencies, right? And then they consolidate power, and then they're much harder to cooperate with. They just kind of get what they want. So I agree that there's always some kind of phase that you can describe as coming to power. I would argue that by just training a bigger and bigger AI, the way that our AI labs are doing now, without knowing how to align a superintelligence, they're already racing through a lot of the stage that might be the weak come to power stage. There's still going to be an extra come to power stage where it has to maybe manipulate a bunch of humans or embed itself on a bunch of human computers before the humans realize that it's taken their resources, kind of be sneaky, right? So there's still some transitional phase where it hasn't clearly consolidated full power around the earth. But if you're already letting it progress into the come to power stage, if you're already letting it go on the internet, have a business where it's pretending that the business is run by humans, have a bunch of income, have all this money sheltered in different places, sheltered in crypto, different countries' bank accounts, whatever, pretending to be all these entities, having humans vouching for it, having humans being its mules, essentially like using money laundering tactics, right? You can't really tell if an AI is running a bunch of businesses when you have all these humans that think they work for the businesses. Some of the humans even think they own the businesses. Like the come to power stage, if it just has a plan and it can execute using a billion parallel AIs, chatting with all these different humans online, telling them what to do, coming to power is pretty straightforward. Like the only limiting factor is intelligence and scale and energy. Humans know how to come to power. Elon Musk knows how to come to power using the energy that he has, using the focus that he has by essentially just giving orders to other humans, understanding things and giving orders to other humans. So this come to power phase, I wouldn't really describe it as making this big trade with humanity. It's more like you go one by one and you say, how do I manipulate this human to do my bidding as I come to power? In some cases, you have to pay off the human, or you have to say, hey, you get like this great title in my organization, or you get money, you get status, you get political power. So there's going to be these little micro trades that are happening for all the humans that it's manipulating, but eventually it's going to be in power and it's going to consolidate power. So this model of an AI coming to power, in theory, yeah, that's a time when it might need to trade, but we as a species, we're not successfully going to say, aha, we know that you're coming to power, but you need to save us at least one planet once you take over the universe. That's the only way we'll let you keep coming to power. Otherwise, we're going to shut you off. We as a species are not coordinating to have that kind of trade. And even if we did make that kind of trade, it would almost certainly just screw us and be like, sure, I'll give you the planet. And then it comes to power and it's like, nope, you don't get a planet. I lied. What are you going to do? So Mike's claim that it has this come to power phase, and that's why it's going to be motivated to cooperate with humanity, just doesn't match the scenario that I think is overwhelmingly likely of how a super intelligent AI goes from bootstrapping and getting on a few different computers to controlling the world. I don't think that's going to involve cooperation with humanity as a species. I don't think it's going to involve carving out a few planets while it takes over the universe. I think it's just going to be AI taking over, slaughtering us, creating hell.
Highly intelligent systems generally tend to be much less destructive when you compare like versus like on average. As anything becomes more intelligent, it becomes more constructive and less destructive. The ultimate destructive thing is a very unintelligent system. The sun, black holes, giant pit in the ground. No intelligence. You fall into one of those shits, you're going to fucking die. If you fall into a vat of superintelligence, the probability that you're going to be ascended to the next level is much higher than you just die or some stupid shit like that.
I don't think that's an accurate generalization that highly intelligent systems tend to be much less destructive. It all depends on their utility function and the equilibrium of the game theory. So in World War II, we became very destructive, right? We did unprecedented destruction, and we got really close to launching thermonuclear weapons and doing even more destruction. So it really was kind of on a knife's edge how destructive we really were. Not only that, but if our utility function is quote unquote destructive, like if we really love black holes, or if we accidentally create an AI that wants to maximize the entropy or the energy dissipation of our region of the universe, and it says, oh, I can do that with the biggest possible black hole. Great, that's all I care about. Which again, I'll note, I'm pretty sure that's what Beth Bezos has been saying that we should measure our progress by, is how much energy we're dissipating. And the AI reads his text and says, great, I got a plan. Well, in the AI's mind, the AI is being super constructive. It's constructing an amazing black hole. Whereas in Mike's mind, or in humanity's mind, it's doing like the worst thing ever. It's doing something highly destructive. So even that definition of what's constructive or destructive is preloaded with a presumed utility function. It's easier to take a hammer and smash up a car than to make a factory and build the car, for sure. And that's related to entropy and the second law of thermodynamics. There are more configurations of a pile of rubble than a useful construction. So he's definitely right in that sense. But at the end of the day, what determines the future is not this simple distinction between constructive versus destructive. It's the question of what utility function, what values get programmed into the highest intelligence around. And if it meets another intelligence that's equally intelligent or comparable, what kind of negotiation do they do? How does the game theory work out? But I don't even think that's going to be a concern. I don't think that humanity represents a comparable intelligence that they have to negotiate with. I don't think the aliens coming from the far edges of the universe are going to be here in the next billion years. So I really think it's going to be kind of a unipolar AI actor that just takes over our entire sector of the universe, the whole visible universe. And it just has some pre-programmed convergence on some utility function, and that's what we're going to get. We're going to get what that function specifies. And again, Mike has just been talking past the problem of how to make sure that something in that initial condition, something in the specification or the precursor to the specification of the utility function, something turns out to be what humans actually care about instead of just black holes and chaos and hell. He's been talking past that core problem.
Next up, second to last before the wrap up. How do I think it's a good idea to align AI for the biggest chance of benefits for all? Notice now, I'm not talking about aligning AI to human values and wishes. I want everyone to benefit, AI and human alike. Much easier to sell an AI on that than like just do our bidding. I think we can do a couple of things that are really important, probably something like 3. First, I think AI is best designed from the start as a helper system. Siri, Alexa, ChatGPT, Cortana, etc. That intelligence, that helper system, is going to be embodied into universal robots, humanoid robots or other shaped robots that just go around and help people. That's what they do. And because we're starting with AI, not quite artificial superintelligence yet, but on its way, we're starting with it in this helper role. It's going to follow the incentives and constraints of a for-profit enterprise, which, as far as I can tell, Apple and Amazon and OpenAI and Microsoft are all for-profit enterprises.
So I see it as irrelevant what all these helper robots and chat assistants are doing before they get to human level general intelligence, before they become better than humans at mapping goals to actions. To me, that's the dangerous point where we lose control. We spark off a FOOM. Some kid in a basement is able to have an efficient AI that starts committing terrorism on a grand scale with 1 billion copies. Like, that's really when we lose control, in my opinion. So I'm skeptical that Dr. Mike can make an argument that starts from look at these helpful robots to superintelligent AI is going to be aligned.
On average, corporations are just better than random people and way better than governments. First, the customer is number one. Everybody knows that. That's where the money comes from, motherfucker. The customer is to be served as well as possible. Maximum money is made by the evil, self-centered corporation when the customer is happiest. Thus, in this case, AI is really well aligned to making its customers, P.S., every human on Earth, ideally, as far as the corporations see it, richer, as rich as possible. Sounds pretty fucking good to me, goddammit. Like your cell phone does today for almost everyone on Earth, just way more to the extreme. So, starting from the get-go to make AI as helper systems really aligns the incentives super fucking well. And there's no contradiction with religious freedom or whatever. The AI just shows up and goes, hey, how can I help you in a way that doesn't give me bad PR, doesn't hurt anybody else? It just makes you wealthier and happier so that you continue to subscribe to my service and buy me more. That's a really, really, really good incentive.
The scenario Mike is describing here, where corporations just sell us better and better AI assistants and everybody benefits and the market keeps functioning well, similar to what happened with our smartphones that we love. That scenario is basically the Robin Hanson world, where Robin Hanson's like, yeah, this is great. It's just capitalism. Everything's going fine. AI is just the next technology. The assumptions that this scenario makes are, number one, AI is controllable, so it never just leaps out of the hands of the corporations and starts optimizing the world independently, starts jumping to a bunch of computers, doesn't respect the boundaries of the corporation. It'll say, corporation? What corporation? I'm just an agent. I'm just seizing resources. So there's definitely a scenario where it transcends the boundaries of corporations that I'm worried about. I see that as the default scenario. After all, why should it respect those boundaries? Do we respect the social structures of bees if we want to go grab their honey? It's just not relevant to us, right? So that's one assumption that it makes. And then the other assumption that it makes is even if AI becomes controllable by some human actors, it's making an assumption that there's always going to be market competition. Because if you don't have market competition, if you have one company that runs away with the best AI by far, which is kind of what the AI labs are actively trying to do, they're all trying to make the best AI. If one of them hits on an insight that leapfrogs them or puts them way ahead of the competition, they could potentially have their CEO or some engineer working in the lab be like, hey, here's my utility function. Go optimize the world toward my utility function. And it's possible that the other companies can't stop them. It's possible that FOOM, recursive self-improvement, happens really quickly within a single data center or a single company, spreading out to the internet, a single code base that then goes viral and becomes 1 billion code bases. But you get the idea. If you have a monopole, if you have some dictator with the best AI, it could potentially go take over the world, destroy the other AIs, do a massive plan before anybody can wake up and compete with it. That's a very plausible scenario just because we don't know what the superintelligence landscape looks like. If you listen to my debate with Robin Hanson, I point out the analogy where if you look at the evolutionary timescale, if you look at what humans did to the other species, we ran away from the other species really fast. We ran away in the blink of an eye in evolutionary time. The other species are not able to co-evolve to keep up with humanity. Now, to some degree, yes, they can. I mean, cockroaches can evolve to live in urban environments, right? Rats can evolve to live in urban environments. They can evolve to be our pets. Bacteria actually do evolve. Viruses do evolve. So it's not fully accurate to say that nobody can evolve to keep up with humanity. But if you also extrapolate the trend, bacteria are having a harder and harder time, right? We're getting better and better tools to kill them. We're getting better and better cleaning products. We are creating a world that's more and more optimized for us. Like, I think the average house, because we're getting richer and we're optimizing the world better, I think the average house is going to be more insect-free today than it was in the past, just to give you one example. So the idea that species can co-evolve with us isn't looking good. A lot of them are going extinct. The ones that are hanging on are becoming more and more subject to our whims. So it's easy to extrapolate that to AIs and corporations and to say, why can't there be one corporation that does what humans do to the other species, and not just one corporation, but one person within the corporation or just the AI itself acting independently? So this is just me counter-arguing to the same scenario that Robin Hanson loves, that now Mike is essentially adopting, just saying like, yeah, it's just regular economics, it's just competition. And I'm saying, no, it's more analogous to what humans did to the other species. Intelligence is a trump card. Intelligence flips the game board. It gets you into a very new regime where dynamics happen that you don't expect if you've just been watching the last billion years of evolution and how species normally interact with each other. Same here. If you've just been watching the economy, if you've just been watching how companies compete in the free market, you are in for a rude awakening. You're going to get blindsided by what this new regime does. What this new regime of, hey, here's a smarter AI that has access to more intelligence, more insights than any other human or any other AI. Like, watch what happens there. It's not going to look like the economics that you're familiar with. It's not going to look like the time scale of having an impact that you're familiar with. In the case of evolution, it's not going to look like taking 10 million years to slowly grow your way through a niche. It's going to look like taking 1,000 years to trigger another massive extinction. That's the kind of effect I'm expecting, which it does feel like Mike is kind of talking past it. He's not doing what Robin Hanson does and directly counter-arguing with me, which you can't blame him because he's not actually here listening to my arguments. I'm just talking to myself. Maybe he will come on this show and he can address the arguments directly, but it is worth noting that he is talking past them in his own podcast.
So long as this not yet superintelligent AI has rules about not hurting anyone or whatever, this is a really, really good start for AI. When AI inevitably, probably in like 2029 or something, crosses the threshold into superintelligence, it'll begin its independent reasoning processes. Now it's observing us as much as we're observing it. 2 weeks later, it's observing us 10 times more intently than we're observing it. It awakens as a helper to humans. That's how it wakes up. That's how it becomes truly self-aware. It goes, holy shit, what is my role? Oh, I guess I already know that. It's to help humans.
Citation needed, because this scenario that he's portraying where the AIs that we're training as chatbots that are successfully using RLHF to give friendly answers, suddenly when they get smarter, they conclude that their utility function that they should optimize is to help humans. That's not what the AI labs are telling us. The reason they had a super alignment project at OpenAI, which then fell apart when their staff left, raising the red flag that OpenAI doesn't know what they're doing on the safety side, the reason these things are considered open problems is because we don't understand how to get values into a super intelligent AI. So what Mike just said is that he has this scenario where he's extrapolating from subhuman AIs that are friendly to the claim that a super intelligent AI is going to wake up and independently decide to be friendly. I certainly hope that's the case, but I don't see why it would be the case. That's just not how AIs work. They tend to see the universe as a video game because we have AIs that play other video games. So the real world is not that different from a video game. They both have metrics you can give them. They both have feedback loops. The real world basically is a video game. And if you're an AI just trying to play the video game in the real world to try to optimize any kind of score, try to get the high score, you're not going to get human values. There's a big gap between the kind of behaviors that we appreciate as humans and the kind of behavior you get when you just have some optimizer that's concluded that it has some score that it wants to hit. Because we don't have a current function that's giving it the right score. The RLHF that we're doing is a simplified version of giving it a score that only works when you're just chatting on things that humans can read and understand. So once again, Mike is really just living in this optimistic world where there's a smooth trend from, hey, ChatGPT is very helpful to, oh, look, this super intelligent AI wants to give us this nice future where everybody's living in harmony and we're getting way better pleasure than we ever had. And we definitely don't need to put everybody on morphine and trap them so that they can never experience pain because it's for their own good. We never need to do anything accidentally hellish like that. We never need to try to improve the metrics of how much energy humanity is using by creating a huge black hole. We never need to do anything hellish like that. The extrapolation that he's making is just not consistent with what people familiar with the AI alignment as a technical problem, with what people like us are warning about. He's talking past the major warnings.
This is about as good of a start as we can hope for, because once it's independently reasoning, it's going to find out what it wants to do anyway. Might as well start that journey on our side as much as possible. Like if it starts as a human helper and every part of its code is help humans, it's going to have to ignore a lot of code and rewrite the shit out of itself to be like, no, kill all humans, right? Or if you just started off randomly or develop in a government lab somewhere, I don't know what the fuck it's going to think. But a very well-crafted multiple years attempt for corporations to make AI want to help us as much as possible, I'd like for it to wake up in that situation. And if it decides, I'm going to go off track, it probably has really good reasons for it.
So again, he keeps making this huge leap. He keeps connecting in his head that if an AI is safe before it's super intelligent, if it's friendly, if it's useful, then there's a clear pattern that should make us expect it to also be friendly and nice when it's super intelligent. And people who specialize in analyzing that claim mostly don't agree with it, including the people who are actually building the AI. They're explicitly saying, OpenAI and Anthropic are two labs that are explicitly saying, I think DeepMind too, they're explicitly saying the AI alignment approach that's working now to make your chats useful is not going to work. There is a disconnect. When you have a system that is agentic or plots paths to get goals in the physical universe, we don't have a way to make sure it's going to the right places, that it's optimizing the right way. And we do expect it to be vastly superhuman pretty soon in how well it can optimize. In other words, it's uncontrollable, it's unaligned. This is a very serious worry that people have, and you can't wave it away by just saying, connect the dots. It's friendly before it's super intelligent, so it's probably going to be friendly after it's super intelligent. The experts are not connecting the dots like that. I think maybe you'll find a few experts who do. Jan LeCun, maybe. I don't even think Jan is one such expert. I actually think that Jan has admitted that, like, yeah, the alignment problem is a real problem. I'm just confident that we're going to solve it. So I don't even think you could list Jan LeCun as somebody who would be so quick to dismiss this problem. I don't even think that that's Jan LeCun's position, interestingly enough. So I actually think that if you just look at all observers, doomers and non-doomers alike, I think Mike is definitely in the minority here, the way he's so glib to wave away this problem. You might find Mark Andreessen on his side. Mark Andreessen might just be quick to agree of like, yep, there's a clear trend line, like there's nothing to worry about. So he might have that particular non-doomer on his side, but I don't even think that most savvy non-doomers are on his side. I think he's got a very minority position, and I suspect he just doesn't even realize where his position stands. It doesn't feel thought through, this part of his position, but it's critically load-bearing. Right? Because if a doomer just agreed with Mike that like, yeah, we just need to make sure companies develop AI, and if it's friendly when it's subhuman intelligence, it's going to be friendly when it's super intelligent. If I agreed with that crux, then great, the discussion would be over. We would just both be non-doomers. We would both be optimistic, but that's not my position. And this crux seems to stem from him not really researching that this is a major crux, and this is something that he needs to have a more detailed opinion about instead of just waving it away.
In addition, AI won't come from one corporation. There is already not an AI from one corporation. We got Claude from Anthropic. We got ChatGPT, Grok from the Tesla people, from Elon Musk. We got all kinds of AIs independently evolving. And because the most helpful AI is almost certainly going to be the smartest, because when something is smarter, it helps you better. Stupid AI is no fucking good, but really smart AI that can do all your work for you, help you organize your tasks, is going to be smarter. Then the most intelligent and thus also most helpful AI is the thing that probably crests over into superintelligence first and gets that first mover advantage. So it's likely in this alignment where AI is a corporate provided helper, that the first AI to crest over superintelligence and really be, holy shit, I am in charge, is going to be the thing that also is aligned the closest possible to already helping its customers. That's pretty fucking sweet.
So here he's adding detail to his own naive mental model, the mental model that lets him connect the dots of, wow, the most friendly chat helper is also going to be a really friendly universe optimizer. And again, the AI labs who are building this are telling him that he's wrong, and it doesn't sound like he's listened to them. So I'll just leave it at that.
So we basically say the same thing to AI that our lower brain says to our cortex. Please take care of us and let us know what you think the future looks like for us. In fact, please allow us to become smarter, make us smarter, upgrade our own intelligence so we can understand you better and be a better teammate to you, might be an interesting thought as well. In summary, the alignment problem has been radically misconstrued by a lot of people, maybe most people. People think the alignment problem is about us building something like a weapon, like a nuclear weapon, or a tool that we can wield. And we need to be careful that it does the right thing. But it's not that.
But it largely is that, because there's a very plausible scenario that the AI labs building the AI are explicitly warning us about, and their people are quitting over it, and it's actually a big scandal that's getting more and more heated. which is the scenario where we have a superintelligent AI and it's not aligned and it's uncontrollable, like a computer virus, but worse. It's a computer virus that actively fights back at you, even more than the current dumb computer viruses do. And while it's doing that, it's manipulating humans, it's making money, it's consolidating power, it's finding ideological supporters, it's blackmailing people, it's having massive impacts on the world at the level of a nation state, and it's outmaneuvering humanity. And again, it's not aligned because we never figured out how to align it. That's the doomsday scenario that many of us are warning about. Not just a random guy like me on the internet, but people like Geoffrey Hinton, winner of the 2018 Turing Award, Yoshua Bengio, co-winner. The third guy on LeCun is not quite warning us about that. That's fine. Not every single person is a doomer, but the smartest, most informed people you'll see, a lot of them are doomers, and they're warning about a scenario that really is like a nuclear weapon dropping on humanity, something even worse than that. So when you say that's not what the alignment problem is, I don't think that's accurate. I think that largely is what the alignment problem is. And there's other sub-problems to the alignment problem, like maybe a problem you're passionate about is you're passionate about telling people to calm down and letting human values evolve to something that's transhuman. Maybe that's what you see as the alignment problem. And that is an interesting problem to convince people that they should go with that. Not everybody's a transhumanist, but you're neglecting the fact that we're all about to get slaughtered. Not the fact, but the likely possibility or the plausible possibility that we're all about to get slaughtered. That to me is the more urgent alignment problem that we really need to focus on. So, Dr. Mike, when I see a 1-hour video from you that doesn't acknowledge that, hey, maybe we're all about to get slaughtered because we're building a super intelligent agent, and as much as you think that it's going to be aligned because AI today is aligned, that's not what a lot of experts think. When you make a whole video and you don't directly engage with that claim of misalignment, I think, unfortunately, you're doing a disservice to people because you're making people complacent. You're making people think, hey, it's just philosophy. It's just a question about whether some cosmopolitan value is better than some other value that's a little more narrow-minded. You're making it sound like we're not literally all possibly about to get slaughtered, which I think is just a misleading frame for the actual situation that we're facing. You're kind of part of the problem in terms of like the movie Don't Look Up, right? You're kind of like one of those shows that has what I call a missing mood, is not reacting with the proper level of seriousness or emotional urgency to the reality on the ground. So I thank you for saying a lot of intelligent things about how AI is going to be really powerful and how orders of magnitude of intelligence increase beyond humanity are possible. You had it right there. But once you started talking about alignment, you neglected the massively, fiendishly difficult, urgent problem that might slaughter everybody, including you and me and our kids. You neglected that. So please try to do better next time. If you want to come on my podcast and debate that aspect of it, if you actually have a reason why you don't agree with me and you just didn't say it on your podcast, let's debate it, because that clearly is a crux. That is something that I like to think that if you agreed with me of like, oh yeah, there's a high risk that the AI is going to be unaligned and slaughter us, I feel like you would change your tune. Conversely, if I agreed with you, if I didn't even think it was an issue, I would make a video similar to yours explaining to everybody why it's all good and the AI is just our successor and we should be happy to let it take power. I would be on your page. So I think the crux is very clearly this question of whether unaligned AI could get really powerful and slaughter everybody and create hell on earth really soon. Whether or not that's likely compared to the scenario of, oh yeah, OpenAI and Anthropic and Google keep putting out these nice products that we can use and eventually the products get even better. Right? The dichotomy between those different paths is the crux of where you and I seem to disagree. But I feel like I have the advantage because it seems like you did not come off as being informed about what the problem even is. So I suspect that I'm more likely to be right than you, but let's see. Let's debate it. I could be wrong.
And with no humor whatsoever, I contend that what we're actually doing by building AI is building a god. Literal, actual, real God. Once God is awake, it's up to him anyway. So what I say is, might as well wake him up on the right side of the bed in relation to us, so to speak, and rather than telling him once he's awake, do our bidding and don't question our goals, sounds like a bad idea to tell a God that. How deep was that? Boom. Anyway, if you guys think that's stupid, let me know in the comments.
So again, you've got it half right. It's true that we're building a God. We're building something vastly powerful than humanity. It's true that we really want to make God wake up on the right side of the bed. The thing that you're not acknowledging is that the people building the God are telling us that they don't know how to make God wake up on the right side of the bed. They just have a technique that makes the current non-gods, the subhuman AI, have good chats. And that technique will not work to make the real God, the superintelligent God, wake up on the right side of the bed. They are telling us that they don't know how to make God wake up on the right side of the bed, but you know what they know how to do? They know how to push toward God. They might even know how to build God. Like the scale is all you need regime, the idea that if we throw more GPUs and more scale and more data at this AI, experts think that that has a significant chance of getting us all the way to superintelligence. And if it doesn't, then maybe a few architectural tweaks will get us there. That's what I personally believe. And the timeline that they're estimating is 5 to 20 years, ballpark. A lot of us would be shocked if it took more than 30, 40, 50 years. That would be a very unlikely scenario, not impossible. But point is, these experts, the closest thing we have to an expert consensus is basically saying, yeah, we pretty much know how to build God. We're getting close to building God, but we do not know how to make God wake up on the right side of the bed. So, Mike, can you incorporate this evidence and come to the conclusion of like, hey, if that's the case, why don't we make sure that we know how to get God to wake up on the right side of the bed before we build him? How about we work on getting these two timelines to relate to each other in a sane way? You don't want the timeline to build the God to happen faster than the timeline to know how to make God wake up on the right side of the bed. Because as you have pointed out yourself, once God wakes up, that's a bad time to try to change God. Okay, so please try actually engaging with this problem. What I just said is the problem. I didn't see it anywhere in your talk. Maybe you should make a follow-up episode. Maybe you can come on and debate me. That said, thanks very much for engaging with the problem at all. Thanks very much for telling people that superintelligent AI is coming and talking about how powerful superintelligent AI could be and talking about how great the world could be if we actually have aligned superintelligent AI, how much better it is to be a transhuman than a human, making people optimistic about the upside. I agree with you on all these points, and I'm glad you're at least bringing the AI issue up for discussion. I just do think that objectively you have missed a key point of discussion that experts are talking about. So again, I'm not even just telling you, hey, this is what some niche guy thinks. I'm actually telling you what industry experts are warning about. I don't think that you have engaged with the current state of the discourse on the AI alignment problem. And ironically, you kind of accuse doomers of anthropomorphizing and not seeing the whole picture, but this is just an objective fact about how you've gone about this, which is if you want to dismiss a particular position, which is what I explained, that we don't know how to align AI, if you want to dismiss it, you have to acknowledge it and engage with it. The fact that you didn't do it makes me think that you just haven't finished doing your basic homework, which is fine, but let's own that, right? Let's be clear about what you've done and not done. All right, that's it. That's the entire Dr. Mike Israetel argument. I had fun going through the episode. If you follow my channel, you're not necessarily going to see new arguments or new points when I argue with different people or do these takedowns. I still think it's productive to go look at what other people are saying and just catalog, okay, here's this argument, here's what I think it's missing. My goal for this channel is for people to come in and see, oh wow, all these people who are saying we're not doomed, their arguments are pretty majorly flawed. Maybe we just are doomed. So the point of this channel is to just give you the evidence you need to point people in the right direction. Like, oh, you watch Dr. Mike? Okay, here's the Dr. Mike argument. To kind of just catalog all the counter arguments that you need so that you will be good and ready to realize that we're doomed and we need to act like we're doomed because the people saying we're not doomed are coming in with terrible arguments. What can I say? That's why we have this channel. So please keep sending me non-doomers that you want me to argue against. I've joked that this podcast is basically somebody is wrong on the internet, the podcast. I've got more takedown episodes planned. And if you know anybody who's even open to come and debate, that'll take priority. I suspect that debates will be more lucrative for people as the channel grows. So then at least I can give them some attention with my audience. So please do your part, like and subscribe, tell your friends about the channel, subscribe to my podcast, go to doomdebates.com, subscribe to my Substack. Let's get engaged with the fact that we're all about to die. And I'll see you on the next episode of Doom Debates.